One, Netflix, Warner Brothers, bad for business. Gavin Newsom, crushing his own testicles, bad for business. 2, 3-Eye Atlas, alien mothership, or ordinary interstellar comet, with professor of science at Harvard University, Avi Loeb. 3, college football playoff, Notre Dame, out. It is Will Cain Country, streaming live on a Monday at the Will Cain Country YouTube channel. Happy Monday, happy holidays. 'Tis the season. Get your gifts together. Plan the Christmas party. We can help you do so right here with gift ideas from Will Cain Country. More of that coming up in a moment, along with professor of science at Harvard University, the man that has said it could be, it might be. We should investigate whether or not it is an alien mothership. 3-Eye Atlas. Here at the beginning of December, it is about time for the truth. And we'll discuss it with Professor Avi Loeb. But let's get into bad for business, Netflix and Warner Brothers. It is story number 1. Netflix has launched a bid for Warner Brothers that would take over the catalog that includes HBO, CNN, and more. $72 billion. That's the money that is on the table for Netflix to buy Warner Brothers. It's caused a lot of angst. It's caused a lot of outrage among the populace in the community out there in the audience, and it's even drawn the attention of President Donald Trump.
Should they be allowed to buy Warner Brothers? Should Netflix?
Well, that's the question. They have a very big market share. And when they have Warner Brothers, that share goes up a lot. So I don't know. That's going to be for some economists to tell. And also, and I'll be involved in that decision too. They have a very big market share.
Did he make any guarantees to you about the merger if they do merge?
No, not at all. He came up. He was in the Oval Office last week. I have a lot of respect for him. He's a great person. But he's done one of the greatest jobs in the history of movies and other things. He's got a lot of interesting things happening.
$72 billion after a brutal bidding war. That's the prize for Warner Brothers from Netflix. But it has launched, for example, a potential counter bid, a hostile takeover, a last-minute bid from Paramount. $108 billion. Paramount launches hostile takeover for Warner Brothers Discovery, valued at $108 billion, seeking to derail Netflix's deal. Paramount's offer, reads the subhead, includes $24 billion from Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and Abu Dhabi wealth funds, as well as Jared Kushner's affinity partners. Let's bring in Tinfoil Pat, Two-A-Days Dan, to discuss what many are talking about is just bad for business and bad for the consumer. I'm having trouble, fellas, making sense of why this is so bad. Dan, you ran a little analysis on AI about why this is so bad. Let's walk through these reasons, because I don't think any of them stand hold up, at least not in my personal experience. And I'm sure everybody listening right now pays multiple subscriptions to multiple streaming services and is analyzing this through the prism of what it will cost them and what it means for their experience in consuming content. I'd be surprised if people have a much different point of view than do I when it comes to Netflix. All right, here's number 1, according to Two-A-Days Dan. Too much power in one place. Netflix will control a massive library of movies and shows from Warner Brothers, HBO, DC, CNN, and it would be the biggest streaming platform. That means, according to critics, fewer choices, less competition.
That's what Trump said.
Should Warner Brothers be bought by Netflix? Yeah, fine. Less competition. But I would argue in the most competitive environment in business right now. I mean, do you guys feel like content creation is a dominated marketplace? Just a few years ago, we had, a few years ago, in my lifetime, it feels like a few years ago, 30 years ago, 3 broadcasters, then 4 with the advent of Fox. Cable comes along and you have, what, 24 cable channels producing meaningful content, and most of it, by the way,
libraries.
Was filler. What about at the library?
No, it's about libraries. It's about libraries of content, not newer content. It's about
franchises,
and franchise tag, all those type of things. It's more about what they already own and control.
And also, it's being consolidated by a handful of companies. And movies are much different. Like something where you talk, like a cable news show or something like that. It's much lower cost of barrier for entry. So I think movies, it's a much bigger deal.
Okay, well, first of all, I guess I don't think about things in terms of movies. Look, let's talk about this. I am a lifetime moviegoer. Lifetime. There, for a long stretch of my life, I went to the movies every week. I was raised by a mother and father that loved the movies, and they went every week. I no longer go to the movies. And that's one of the concerns as well on this list of concerns. Bad for movie theaters. Netflix doesn't provide or prioritize theatrical releases. It owns Warner Brothers, a major movie studio. That fear creates the idea that there'll be fewer movies in theaters. But see, I just think in terms of content. Like, Patrick, I'm not even thinking about talk content. I'm not thinking about my career. I'm thinking about the content that I consume. And I don't distinguish anymore between a movie and a series. Like, the quality is negligible at this point. In fact, the series is of higher quality. The series is of higher quality. Okay, that's the problem. Let's come back to that in just a moment. But my personal analysis when I sit down to watch something is how much time do I want to give to something, and does it look good? And more often than not, the look good part of it is a series over a movie. Then I'm like, yeah, but do I want to go in on this for the next 7 to 10 hours or multiple seasons if I'm way behind? Movies actually end up being this. I think the future appeal of movies is I only have 2 hours and I don't want to commit anything more than 90 minutes to 2 hours to something. That's the future of movies, and producing something good in there. But I don't, it is competition, but I feel like I've lost nothing with the decline of movies. I just don't feel like I've lost anything because I've gained more with series.
But a lot of this content in these shows are stretched out and could have been consolidated into movies. It's a genius business model, because if you're taking these ideas that could be movies, stretching them into 8, 9 episodes, you're getting a lot more watch time, a lot more subscribers, and you keep doing it. But it turns it into fluff. It turns it into nonsensical things that you don't need to watch. It's like reading a book.
That's fair.
You know what I mean? You don't need 8 episodes of something when you could have one movie in it. It's creating more consumerism and more, consumption of these longer products. And they're not as good.
Okay.
And it still costs money to make these things. It costs money to make TV shows, just like it costs money to make movies. And those costs are much higher than a CNN or a Fox News would have to make a talk show. That's my point, is like the barrier to entry is a lot more difficult to get into than, like you were talking about how, we had these limited networks, broadcast networks, and now we have cable and it exploded. You need those. Like, it's going to be harder for people to get into those markets because the money's not going to be there the same way.
But right now, let me ask you, let me ask you a question, right? Do you feel like when you go to your television and you're not watching news or sports and you want to watch something, do you feel like you're suffering from a lack of choices? Honestly,
too much stuff.
I don't.
There's
too much stuff. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
So that's
think it's that good.
That doesn't reflect a lack of competition.
But it's a lesser quality.
Patrick, there's so much. Okay, here's the thing. Maybe you're right, but the only way you would know that is by watching it all. Do you know what I mean? And judging.
I try to.
So I watch a fair amount. You must watch a lot more than me. Here's how it works for me. Okay, this is my habit. It's probably in this order. I probably turn on my TV. I go to Netflix first, and I see what's on Netflix. It probably is the first place I go. And right now, Netflix has 2 or 3 things that I know I thought, I want to go back and watch that. One of which is a movie starring that Austin Butler about stealing something from New York that you watched, Dan. Should I watch it?
Yeah, I mean, it's depressing and a wild ride, but yeah, it's good.
Okay. What's the name of the movie? Stealing New York or something like that?
Yeah.
Something like that. And then I can go to Prime. I have a Prime subscription. I go and see what's on Prime. There's more unique series there. There's several options. I have Paramount,
Caught Stealing.
Landman, Caught Stealing. All right, Landman. I'm going to be honest with you. I watched the first 2 or 3 episodes of season 2 of Landman. I'm not sure I'm going to continue it. I may not. It's not.
It's mush.
It's not top tier for me.
It's like cowboy drivel. It had a good concept in the beginning, but they didn't need to stretch it out. It's exactly what I'm saying. It's just more content to put out there.
Right.
To make money.
Okay, so there's going to be a couple things on Apple TV. Every single one of these services has at least 3 things that look pretty good to watch. I go to Apple TV. I am invested in that Pluribus, watching that, which is the Vince Gilligan show, the guy that did Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. By the way, Dan, I don't know if you're watching that. I do feel like they're stretching it out. I feel like it could move along quicker. They're stretching this out too slowly. Not enough is happening in every episode.
And it's weekly, too. It's weekly releases, not just all at once as well. That's a difference.
That's right. And then I have Peacock I can go to. I have Paramount for all the Taylor Sheridan stuff if I want to continue with that. So my point is I'm paying for all these subscriptions. Between all of them, there's more content that looks good than I'll ever get to. So I just feel like there's a glut of competition. Like we're not suffering from consolidation. We're suffering from, if it's suffering, I mean, there's no such thing as suffering from too many choices, really. But I don't see the problem in the Netflix Warner Brothers deal.
It seems like a lot, but there's less than you think. They
it's
make
4
it
or
look
5
like
companies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not as much as you think. It's all vertically integrated.
Paramount owns a lot. Amazon owns MGM. Disney owns all Disney stuff.
Yep.
And then now, if Netflix is going to own
Warner
Brothers. Who else is left? Apple's a little weird, but
they lose $1 billion a year making these shows.
Right.
Literally.
They're the outlier. But it's essentially 4, 5, maybe 6 companies are really making these things.
I think the idea also on the price front, like what is I pay for HBO. That's another one I do. I don't go to that one very often at all. That's if I was dropping a subscription, that's probably the one I would drop. HBO and Netflix. So if they combine, like how do my prices go up? I would think that
because they control the market. They can charge you whatever you want. They could. You're literally going to have to get it, so they could charge you, $50 a month, and you're going to say yes, please, thank you so much.
Hey, if you want this, you can get it for $30 a month, or you get it bundled for $40.
Exactly, you get this, but not this, or this and this, and not. It's just.
I would argue consolidation. I would argue that consolidation is actually addressing a consumer demand. What are we looking at now? 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Everybody wanted to destroy the cable bundle. That's what we wanted to do. We didn't want to pay for all this stuff that we didn't watch. So we wanted to go a la carte.
It's our fault.
And then what did we do? We all got every single subscription. They built up over time, and you're spending as much now as you did with the cable bundle, just through all these different subscription services. And now consumers are asking for, can't we just have one? Can't we just have one we pay for and we go? So basically the consumer is asking for a return of the cable bundle. And I think you're getting to a point, even if you're right, Patrick, that it's 3 or 4 companies, that's sort of what the consumer wants. 6, 7.
Don't even. Dude.
I just did that.
8, 9.
Oh, no, I just
did
that.
Say that.
8, 9 content
7,
providers.
8, 9.
I don't think that's what anybody actually wants. I don't know. I don't have the concern that everybody else does.
I think we should give our next guest, Avi Loeb, his own show, is all I'm saying. I would watch it.
You do like that. Before we get to Avi Loeb, who's waiting in the wings right now, I just want to show you this one picture because I think it's absolutely incredible. This is from the New York Times deal. What do they call it? Deal book? I'm not sure. Gavin Newsom sitting, and everybody's commenting on the way in which Gavin Newsom is sitting. If you're listening to us on Spotify, Apple, or on radio, so he's got his legs crossed. He's got the full cross going.
Nothing
right?
Wrong with this.
Everybody knows what I'm talking about. It's not ankle on knee. The next is where you go back of knee on front of knee, two legs, one back on the front of another. And then he's crossed it all the way over. Okay, you've seen that. It's pretty ladyfied, when you cross it all the way over. Then he's gone one step further where he's bent the plant leg and it's angled out. So now he's got like a reverse X going on between his legs. And so everybody is making fun of the way Gavin Newsom is sitting right here. I live a little bit in a glass house because
I was going to say, you sit that way.
I have crossed my leg. No, I don't sit this way, but I literally have had a producer get in my ear and go, Will, fix the way you're sitting.
Yeah, change it.
But as long as you're not perched, I guess, like a bird. Did we send did we have the picture? Okay, yeah, there we go.
What, President Trump?
Yeah, with the next thing you're about to show. That's manspreading.
The way he's sitting?
You're not supposed to do that.
That's not manspreading.
According to women,
No,
that's not manspreading.
This is moderate for him.
I'm a manspreader. I'm a manspreader and a crosser. Oof. I'm both of those things.
Red flags.
This is a normal sitting position. Although, is he giving the? Isn't that like
that's the
Illuminati hand symbol?
Exactly.
Yep. He is giving the Illuminati hand
Donald
symbol.
Trump in the Illuminati.
Speaking of conspiracies, now a very honest and interesting conversation. 3i Atlas, the interstellar comet that has been monitored for the last several months, at least popularly here in America. It has been proffered by Harvard professor Avi Loeb that this could be extraterrestrial technology. It is early December. That is when we were told we would get a lot of the answers on 3i Atlas. So Avi Loeb joins us next on Will Cain Country. Hey, you've heard me talk about Buffalo Jacks in the last few weeks. They make vintage outdoor leather jackets. They make flannels. They make wallets. It's a Western rugged brand that actually feels like the real thing. And look, it's cold this week. Most of the country is absolutely freezing. So what if you get yourself a little upgrade this year? How about a new outdoor leather jacket? Maybe it's the Shearling Bomber. I pulled that out last week. I have that thing. I love it. Or maybe it's the puffy leather jacket. I have that one as well. I wore it to Army Navy to meet President Trump. I'm telling you, this stuff is awesome. It's the real deal. Think of it also as an investment for your closet. This is something that you're going to wear for years. Not trendy, not phase out, not disposable. That you're going to have for years, maybe even a decade. Their gear has been on Yellowstone. Country artists wear it. Even folks around our network besides me wear it at Fox. Here's what I know. When you wear a good jacket, a really good jacket, you get compliments. People notice. They say, hey, nice jacket. When's the last time someone said that to you? Why not get yourself a gift for Christmas from Buffalo Jackson? Buffalo Jackson, it's not just jackets, it's leather bags, it's wallets, it's flannels, it's built to roam. Check them out at buffalojackson.com and use code WILL10, and then you get 10% off. 3i Atlas when we come back on Will Cain Country. Interstellar comet, alien spacecraft. What is 3i Atlas? It is Will Cain Country, streaming live at the Will Cain Country YouTube channel, the Will Cain Facebook page, the Fox News Facebook page, but always available by subscribing or following on Spotify or on Apple. Avi Loeb is the Frank B. Baird Jr. Professor of Science at Harvard University. He's a theoretical physicist, and he's been at the forefront of 3i Atlas. Professor, great to see you. Thanks for being with us here today on Will Cain Country.
It's a great pleasure to join you. And I should mention, I'm a country boy. I was born on a farm, drove a tractor throughout my childhood, collected eggs every afternoon. So it's a great pleasure and privilege to join you.
You're more country than I am. I promise you that, Professor. So it's good to have that down-to-earth mentality to talk about something so out of this world. Let's start with the basic question. It is now early December. That is a timeline where many thought we might know more and might know something definitive about 3i Atlas. So at this moment, what is 3i Atlas?
Well, it's most likely a natural object, but there are some very unusual facts about it that make us suspect that maybe it's technological. I can mention those. because I regard it just like a potential black swan event. These are the events where we give a very low probability to something happening, but then it has a huge impact on society. And what that means is that we should take them seriously. For example, a terrorist attack, the chance is very small, and indeed on September 11th, nobody paid attention, and then something bad happened. So we really need to collect all the facts. And Three-Eye Atlas is one of those cases because we have a visitor to our backyard. And if it's technological, it might come through our front door or send some devices that get to Earth. And we just need to monitor it and make sure that it's just an icy rock. Now, what was quite surprising about it is that it came in the plane of the planets around the sun. There is a plane where all the planets within a few degrees are orbiting around the sun in the same plane. And this object came within 5 degrees of that plane. And that is a very small probability event because the chance is 1 in 500. And this is the third object from outside the solar system that we spotted. If we had hundreds of them, it would be natural for one of them to be in this plane. But for the third object to be in that plane, that's quite surprising. And so it suggests maybe the trajectory of this object was designed by some intelligence. And then the object is extremely massive. It's of order 1 million times more massive than the first object we found. And why were we so lucky to receive such a huge package into the inner solar system? Then it came close to Mars and Venus, and it will come close to Jupiter on March 16th, 2026. And it was hiding behind the sun when it came closest to the sun. We couldn't look at it then. And it has also a glow, a halo of bright light around it that is extended towards the sun, which is quite unusual for comets because usually you get a tail. So we are seeing an anti-tail. Instead of gas or dust being pushed away from the sun, we see something extending from the object towards the sun. And that was true when it arrived, and was moving towards the sun back in July when it was discovered. And it's also true now when after it passed closest to the sun on October 29th. There was a recent image from the Hubble Space Telescope that indicates that indeed this halo of light around it is teardrop shaped and it's pointing towards the sun again. So that has to be explained. All these anomalies have to be explained. If it's a natural object, then we should have a good reason for it having those. And I didn't even mention that it has nickel with very little iron in the gas around it. And we always find nickel and iron in similar amounts in natural comets. And the only place where we find nickel without iron is in industrially produced alloys that we technologically produce. So that raised the alarm for me, and that's why I'm so interested in this object.
Okay. I recognize that you qualify your exploration as the potentiality for a black swan event, that the probability is still that it is a natural object from outside of our solar system. But I want to walk through quickly the 4 markers that you talk about that make it raise your eyebrows. And so first is size. I've seen you compare it to the size of Manhattan, right? So it's roughly, if I have this correct, 3 miles or 3 kilometers in diameter, which is different than the other 2 interstellar comets that have come through, I believe, in the last 50 years or so. Is that right? How long we've been monitoring these interstellar comets? So in the last 50 years...
only over the past decade, we started discovering those interstellar objects. And the reason is simple. The US Congress tasked NASA to find 90% of all objects bigger than a football field that may collide with Earth. So NASA started building these observatories. One of them is Pan-STARRS in Hawaii. Another one is the Rubin Observatory in Chile that was just inaugurated in June. And the Atlas telescope was also one that discovered this object. So that's a result of looking for rocks that may impact the Earth, that every now and then we see an object that moves too fast to be bound to the sun. So it came from outside the solar system. It was just a result of the past 8 years that we started discovering them.
Okay. Okay, just in the last decade, as you point out, and this is the biggest one that we've discovered in that time.
Oh yeah, it's big by a large margin. That's the issue. Yeah, it's as big as Manhattan
so that takes
Island.
me to
yeah, sorry.
That takes me to the second piece of red flag that raises your eyebrows, and that is the plane that it is traveling on. You talked about it's 5 degrees off of the planetary plane, which is a 1 in 500 probability. My only skepticism or question on that I would ask for clarification on is, if we're only been studying this, capable of studying this for 8 years, how unique actually is Three-Eye Atlas? Couldn't it have been much more common before we were capable of observing it? So, for example, I'm an expert, like I slept at the Holiday Inn Express last night. I did my AI and Wikipedia research in preparation for a conversation with you, but I was like, remind me the difference between Three-Eye Atlas and Halley's Comet. I'm old enough that I remember Halley's Comet in 1986. It was a huge pop culture event. But Halley's Comet has been around, right, since the 1500s or so when it was first observed. And it comes back every 75 years. But these types of things that you're talking about now, they don't have that history of observation. So is it possible that before the last 8 years, we were getting a lot of these types of comets on the planetary plane?
Oh, definitely. I mean, the fact that we see these objects over the past decade, means that there were, almost 1 billion of them over the age of the history of the Earth that passed near Earth this way, because we've just been monitoring the sky over this decade, but the traffic of interstellar objects through the solar system doesn't depend on whether we look. Just think of a highway when you are going to bed. I mean, the cars don't stop going there. So we were just unaware of this. There are lots of things that we were unaware of. We thought the Earth is at the center of the universe. We were unaware of what lies outside the solar system until the last century or so. We just build the telescopes now that can monitor such objects because they cover a large portion of the sky. And then we find these objects. But of course, they were going through the solar system. We were not aware of them. And the question is whether any of them might be technological, alien technology, rather than rocks. And, when you get objects into your backyard from the street, you might assume that most of them are similar to the objects you have in your backyard, like rocks. But every now and then you may get a tennis ball that was thrown by a neighbor. And that's a completely new way of finding that you have a neighbor. In the past, we were waiting for a phone call, a radio signal. And over the past 65 years or so, we haven't detected any. But maybe nobody is calling us when we are listening. Maybe they called a long time ago. Who knows? If you check your backyard for packages that may have arrived from the neighborhood, you might find some letters in the mailbox, and even if the sender is dead, the difference is that those packages are confined by gravity to the Milky Way galaxy. They don't run away like light or radio signals. Radio signals move at the speed of light. They escape. If you don't catch them at the right time, they're gone. Whereas these objects are accumulating over time. So imagine another civilization that, just like us, sent a spacecraft like Voyager. Voyager, by the way, you may ask, I wrote a paper about it. Where will Voyager be in 1 billion years? It will be on the opposite side of the Milky Way galaxy. It can, with technologies we developed in the 1970s, we can actually make it to the other side of the Milky Way galaxy within less than 1 billion years. That's amazing. And that means that they could have reached us, any other civilization, because most of the stars are older by billions of years than the sun. The sun is a relatively late star. It just formed in the last 1/3 of cosmic history. So we know for sure that there were, tens of billions of stars in the Milky Way galaxy alone where you could have had the technological civilization, because 10% of all the stars have a planet the size of the Earth, roughly at the same separation from the star. So I would simply argue that Elon Musk is not the most accomplished space entrepreneur since the Big Bang. That's very simple. And what happened? What happened on January 2nd? Astronomers discovered a near-Earth object. So the Minor Planet Center, which is the organization officiated to catalog those guys, they announced a near-Earth asteroid. And within a day, they realized, oh, this one is actually moving along the path of the Tesla Roadster car that was launched by SpaceX. So it's not a rock, it's a car. It's a Tesla car moving in the sky because that was launched by SpaceX. They knew about it because they knew that SpaceX launched in 2018 this car to space. However, if there is someone else that launched a car from another star, we would never know about it. And of course, the same astronomers who are considering themselves as experts, comet experts, would say it's a rock of a type that we've never seen before. Just like a cave dweller finding a cell phone, the cave dweller would say it's a rock of a type that I've never seen before.
So I'm incredibly open to these possibilities, but I like to walk through them together. So what that means to me, this object, having originated from outside of our solar system, to your point on the timeline, is older than our sun, is what most people are saying. It's billions of years
okay.
old.
So let me explain that. That is not a fact, but it's a matter of interpretation. Because the statement about it being old is just because it has a high speed. Okay, relative to the sun. When it entered the solar system, it had a speed of about 60 kilometers per second, which is 600 times faster than the fastest race car that we have on Earth. I know that because I visited the NASCAR car race a month ago, and because one of the racers put my image and 3i Atlas on the hood of his car. So I calculated for this guy. I said, it's not a great compliment for 3i Atlas because it was moving at 600 times faster than the fastest car in your race, But so given that it's moving fast, the people who associate it with another star, they said, well, the fastest moving stars in the vicinity of the sun are old stars. These are stars that were kicked around for a long time. And so if this object came from another star, then that star must be old. That's the argument. But what they're missing is that if this object was ejected from the other star at some high speed, it has nothing to do. The speed has nothing to do with the velocity that it inherited from the parent star. It was just ejected at a high speed. So there is a caveat here. We don't know the age of this object.
Okay. So whether or not this is alien technology or a natural rock, it seems to me, Professor, that the proximity of its relationship to our solar system and the size of it don't stand out as great pieces of evidence. Because of what we just said, we've only been monitoring this seriously for about 8 years. So there could have been others that followed this same proximity. Maybe they were alien, maybe they were rock. We don't know. But proximity doesn't seem to be, nor size, because we don't know the size of those that might have preceded our ability to observe them, flag them as unique. Now, there are some things that you brought up that I'd love to dig in that might be unique, and that is, let's talk about the tail.
Can I comment on what you just said? Because,
sure.
the other, we found only 3, so far over the past 8 years. The other 2 are at a large angle relative to the plane of the planets. This one is at a small angle. It's in the plane. And as I said, it's 1 in 500 chance. So if we had a sample of hundreds of them, it wouldn't be unique. But the fact that it's the third object with a chance of 1 in 500 to be in the plane, that's unique. It doesn't matter how many more objects are there. The point is that only 1 in 500 of them would be in the plane. So why are you just draw your luck, and 1 out of 500 would be that aligned with the plane of the planets. And so why did we find the third one to be aligned when the chance is 1 in 500? We should have seen 100 of them before one of them would be likely to be in the plane. You see, that's the argument.
Okay, I get that. I still don't know that doesn't mean it's not random. You could get the 1 in 500 on the third. It doesn't mean it's manipulated necessarily.
Sure. I mean,
alien...
I met my wife on a blind date. You might say the argument, you might say that the chance of that happening at random is really small, that I would find the love of my life that definitely rare things sometimes happen, but it's just an anomaly. If we had 100 objects, I would say it's natural.
Okay, talk to me about the tail. I'm curious about the tail, and it seems to me this is tied to your other observation about the material, or at least that's what others say. That you say we would expect a tail, we get a glow, not a tail, and then it's got this comma shape. It seems it's coming off of it at maybe 45-degree angles behind it. I think others are saying that's a product of its makeup, its material makeup. You've said it's not what we would expect.
Right. So first of all, the plume of gas around it contains mostly carbon dioxide, not water, as comet experts expected, based on most of the comets we see in the solar system carrying water. They're water rich. They're just icebergs, basically dirty ice, or if you want, icy rocks. And by the way, the model for comets was invented by a person at my home institution called Fred Whipple, who went during a snowy day, and he noticed all these icy rocks, and he said, well, maybe comets are just icy rocks or dirty ice, and that ended up being the correct model. But it's water ice. It's not carbon dioxide ice. And that's what this object appears to be mostly made of. And also there is nickel with very little iron, which is not explained. But the question about the jets that are observed coming from it is whether they are coming from pockets of ice on the surface of a natural rock, or whether there are technological thrusters that are used for navigation, or to have some exhaust emitting gas out of the central engine of this object. And we can easily figure it out once we have more data, because the speed of the gas coming as a result of warming up of pockets of ice by sunlight is only a few hundred meters per second. That's the maximum speed you can get, whereas technological thrusters, they eject gas at a few kilometers per second. These are chemical rockets, the ones that we use, or at a few tens of kilometers per second. These are ion thrusters that we use for propulsion. So we can, just by measuring the speed of the gas, we can tell if it's natural or technological.
So the most compelling part to me, or the most curious part to me, is the argument over the trajectory. So has it behaved in ways that you would not expect simply gravity making a comet behave as it goes around the sun, as it approaches the sun, as it emerges from behind the sun? Has it picked up speed? Has it changed course?
Yes, it did, but also comets can do that because they evaporate. They have pockets of ice on their surface, and when the ice sublimates, when there is a jet of gas coming out of this ice, that acts as a rocket. It pushes the object in the opposite direction. You get a recoil. So you can, we do see comets having non-gravitational acceleration. There is a non-gravitational force acting on them, just like in the case of rockets. And indeed, the 3I Atlas has non-gravitational acceleration that it started showing when it came closest to the sun around October 29th. We know the magnitude of it. It's still being measured. It's not 100% measured. There are still some uncertainties in it, but we did see that it corrected its course. And the most unusual thing about it is that on the 16th of March, it will pass closest to Jupiter. And it turns out that the distance from Jupiter that it will come to is exactly the distance where Jupiter's gravity dominates over the sun's gravity, to within a few significant digits. This is called the Hill radius. It's the distance where an object, a massive object, dominates gravity relative to the sun. And the Lagrange points are at this radius. These are points where if you place a device, you don't need much fuel to keep it there. So for example, we put the Webb telescope, the space telescope, we put it on the second Lagrange point near Earth. That's where the Earth's gravity balances the sun's gravity. And 3I Atlas comes exactly at that distance from Jupiter on March 16th, 2026. And, the question is whether that was designed, because it arrives at that distance thanks to the course correction. If the course correction is not taken into account, it misses it. So the question is whether that's for a reason that 3i Atlas wants to deposit some devices near Jupiter. And we will know because we have a spacecraft. NASA has a spacecraft, and Representative Anna Paulina Luna was very gracious. And when I spoke with her, she wrote a letter to NASA encouraging them to use the Juno spacecraft and in monitoring 3i Atlas in March 2026, and they will do so. I mean, I spoke with the principal investigator. They also have a radio antenna there that they can check if there is any transmission from 3i Atlas. I didn't even mention that there was a radio signal called the WOW signal back in 1977 that is still not figured out. We know that it came from outside of Earth, from some direction, and the direction is actually very close to the arrival direction of 3i Atlas, within 9 degrees. And, the chance of that is 0.5% or so for them to be in the same part of the sky. So, there are all kinds of strange things about this object. I think...
when will you have the most definitive evidence? March? I heard December might be a big month for knowing about 3i Atlas. When will you have the most definitive evidence?
I think throughout this month of December, we will get the data. Now, it takes usually a month for the astronomers to digest the data and release it publicly. So I would say by the end of January, we will have a lot of data about it. That at that point, I can tell you, I defined a new scale called the Loeb scale, where 0 means a natural object and 10 means alien technology that is of potential threat to humanity. And I will be able to tell you whether it's a 0 or closer to 10, at that point, because we will have so much data that we should know.
Where are you right now? Where are you on the Loeb scale today?
Today, I'm at 3 to 4, so most likelihood, is with a natural object. But I do still think that we should collect a lot of data because, we might find that it released some small objects that arrive at Earth or arrive at Mars or Jupiter, and we just need to watch out for that. It's just like watching out anything that passes through your backyard. I don't recommend shooting at it or shining a laser beam on it. I'm just saying let's monitor what it does.
That's what we like to do: shoot things we don't know what they are. That's when in doubt.
No,
okay, I want to go a little broader with you. Okay, I want to go a little broader for a moment. You said it's improbable, or you don't think that Elon Musk is the most advanced space traveler since the Big Bang. Do you believe there are other living beings out there in the universe?
Oh, definitely, because. It's just a matter of statistics. There are 100 billion stars like the sun only in the Milky Way galaxy, our own galaxy. They had plenty of time to travel to us, even with the technologies that we had back in the 1970s. Out of all these stars, about 10% have a planet the size of the Earth, roughly the same separation. So, I just think that we are not special or unique. And I think we have siblings. And some of those siblings in our families, in our family of intelligent civilizations, might be more accomplished than we are. It's just a sense of modesty. We're very arrogant.
Right. Yeah. Let me follow up there. Not only, if there's other life out there in the universe, right? Then you posit that they are most likely more advanced than us. That doesn't necessarily have to be the case, but many people presume based upon that set of circumstances that they are. I'm sure you're familiar with this, and this is, again, back to my Holiday Inn Express expertise. Enrique Fermi, right? Fermi, the famous nuclear physicist from the Manhattan Project in the, 1940s and 50s. They're sitting around the lunchroom table, all the guys working on the bomb, and they're talking about this just like you and I are, right? And Fermi's paradox is he says, well, where are they? And it stumped all the other guys. Like, if there is alien life out there, shouldn't we have heard from them by now? And the fact that we haven't, doesn't it suggest there's not other advanced life out there in the universe?
No, because if I was with Enrico Fermi back in 1950 at that lunch in Los Alamos, I would put my arm around his shoulder and say, Enrico, don't be so presumptuous. This is a question that every lonely person asks. And what you tell a lonely person that didn't find a partner is you should be more proactive. You shouldn't assume that you are that attractive that everyone will come to you. Okay? You should look for them. You should go to dating sites, look through the window of your home to see if they're out there. And Enrico Fermi, frankly, didn't build a telescope. He could have discovered interstellar objects. He didn't. So just asking where is everybody is a very presumptuous question because it assumes that we are attractive. Now, if you read the news every day, you would be surprised if we were attractive because, we are not that intelligent. We are wasting a lot of resources worldwide, and we are spending $2.4 trillion every year on military budgets just to prevent other people from killing us or to kill other people, instead of investing it in space exploration. Most of the real estate is out there. It's not here on Earth. And for us to fight over the limited amount of real estate on this tiny rock is very limited. We should explore what's out there because that's the future of humanity. The Earth will not survive in the current condition for very long, and we need to embark on some trip out there to stay for much longer. Otherwise, the history books of the Milky Way galaxy will not remember us. Nobody would mourn over our death in the future. When we will perish as a civilization, either because of self-inflicted wounds, and there are many scenarios for that, or through some global catastrophe that is natural, nobody would care. Not only that they don't care about that, they might not be even aware that we exist. So if they come to visit the solar system, it's not because of us.
Well, okay, so the counter arguments that I've often seen made to Fermi is there could be a zoological effect, meaning they're just watching us. They're just monitoring us like we would animals in a zoo. We have no real interest to them other than simply monitoring us. But then the counter argument a lot is, and I know this is wide open because we're dealing with something that we don't understand, if in fact they do exist, is resource competition, that they would look at us at some point, having presumably exhausted their own resources, looking at our resources and come here to take them. I'm curious what you think about that.
Yeah, it really depends on their ambitions. If we want to survive long term, and by long term, I mean billions of years, not just over the next millennium or century, we really need to think big. And it's not about going to Mars, because Mars is another rock. Just like the Earth, and it's not much better than the Earth. In fact, it doesn't have a significant atmosphere. You will be dead within a few years if you just live on the surface of Mars because of the energetic particles there. It's not a great tourism spot, and we should build some kind of a habitat in space, a space platform that can accommodate humans. The way we built high-rises in cities, they're not similar at all to the trees in the jungle where we came from. But we use technology to construct conditions that are much better. You can order your food instead of chasing it in the jungle. Okay, so that's a great advance. And the next step forward for our civilization is to build a space platform that accommodates humans, not go to another rock which has worse conditions than Earth. That's not a good solution. And so we haven't done that. Why? Because we spent $2.4 trillion on military budgets. Imagine that we will spend $1 trillion a year on space exploration. Within this century, I can guarantee that if you put the best architects, the best scientists, the best business people on this challenge, we would get something, a space platform that can carry humans out there. We just didn't put it as a priority as of now. My hope is if we discover alien technology, someone else that did it, we might get jealous and want to replicate what they did. And that is my hope.
Well, okay, one more on this front. Do you give any credence to the arguments that actually they are here? Aliens are here. Obviously, if they're advanced, they're capable of disguising themselves amongst us. I don't know what you make of the Roswell arguments and the Area 51 arguments, but I will say this. In the large scope of human advancement, we have taken a massive leap in the past century and a half. From the Industrial Revolution to the Technological Revolution to the Information Revolution, we're looking at humanity's growth over the past 150 years far outpaces what we did in the previous 1,000, right? Like, it's vast. Right. We took a massive leap forward. How? Did we just get way smarter all of a sudden? How? Or were we the beneficiaries of something that landed here and helped us?
Yeah, and I would also bring another possibility that there was an advanced civilization before us. We are just not aware of that here on Earth. Because documented human history is only 6,000 years old. That's nothing. That's 1 part in 1,000 of the age of the Earth. Just think about it. For 99.9% of the Earth's history, we have no clear record of what really happened here. And it's possible that 100,000 years ago or 1,000,000 years ago, someone else was here or someone else visited. And maybe the emergence of intelligence on Earth was seeded by some interstellar gardener. Or maybe a previous civilization, left behind all these objects that are hovering around the Earth right now, and we call them unidentified anomalous phenomena. Who knows? Now, the best way for us to learn about these things is to study them. And, I'm leading the Galileo project, and we built 3 observatories, one in Massachusetts, another one in Pennsylvania, and a third one in Las Vegas, Nevada, where we are monitoring the sky 24/7, and we use infrared, visible light, radio, and audio to figure out if all the objects flying in the sky are human-made technologies. And I found anything that is human-made boring, and we shall see if we find anything other than that. But the U.S. intelligence agencies submitted a few reports to the U.S. Congress saying that they're not doing their job. They cannot figure out some of the objects out there in the sky. If there is any information the government has, let's say from 50 years ago, it's completely irrelevant for national security because the technologies used by adversarial nations back then are not used anymore. And so if there are any unusual facts, materials, or documents from 50 years ago, I would very much hope that these would be declassified and shared with scientists like myself. And I'm completely open-minded to figure out what these things are.
What about all the UAPs? Do you give credence to those? Including the underwater UAPs, which are currently in the news cycle.
Yeah. So on May 1st this year, I visited the U.S. Congress and gave a briefing about the Galileo project that I'm leading. And a day before that, I went to the Pentagon and visited the All Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, which is supposed to figure out what these UAPs are. And I asked them, they looked at it for a couple of years. I said, did you find anything? And they said, no, we have access to all the information within government. And these UAPs are just objects that we can figure out. And that's at least true for 99% of all the objects they looked at. But in addition, they haven't seen anything that looks really strange, except for some reports by FBI agents. That's all they said. And then a day later, I sit in Congress, and to my side, there is Eric Davis, and he claims that he worked for the government, and the government has possession of about a dozen spacecraft from crash sites that include even biologics. And that was his claim, and we heard similar claims in the documentary Age of Disclosure. And the only question is whether these stories, are related to facts, or maybe they are just stories. Because if the U.S. government, for example, has possession of some technological objects from other countries, they would potentially call them alien technology just in order to confuse those governments so that they won't know if we have it or not. And so I can imagine a situation where these people just heard stories, but in fact, these are human-made objects, and the biologics are human pilots, And so I just want to see the evidence myself. I haven't seen it. I never had an experience of actually witnessing an unidentified anomalous phenomena that looks crazy. But scientifically speaking, I'm completely open-minded and willing to investigate that if it exists.
All right, two last questions for you, Professor. If let's say in January, it comes back 10 out of 10 on the Loeb scale. 3-Eye Atlas is alien technology. Or for that matter, if the United States government declassified documents that said that in the 50s there was these contacts we made with extraterrestrials, or any evidence that was incontrovertible. How about that? Okay. I'm not sure anything short of a spacecraft hovering over Manhattan would convince the public for anything longer than about a 48-hour news cycle. I'm in the business, so I happen to know. But it's almost like this entire conversation. We're living in the world of deep fakes. We're living in the world of short attention span. We're also living in the world where we've been inundated with content, both fiction and nonfiction, about this stuff so much. I'm not sure what effect it would have on the public.
Oh, I think it would be huge. And by the way, it would make my life worth living, because one reason I'm seeking intelligence out there is because I don't often find it here on Earth. I'm
trying not to be offended.
No, not at all. I'm not talking about you. In fact, I enjoyed this conversation a lot. But what I'm saying is that it would be a great opportunity for humanity to grow. One thing I noticed, I have two daughters, and when they were small, they thought the world centers on them, and they thought that anyone that comes into our home comes to visit them, and because we gave them a lot of attention. And of course, it was a shock for them to realize that on the first day at the kindergarten, that there are many kids just like them. Okay, and some of them are smarter than them. And, that was a shock, but they matured. And I think our civilization eventually will mature. Whether we have a neighbor or not does not depend on whether we know it. For the same reason that the Earth orbited the sun 4.6 billion times before the Vatican approved it. So it doesn't really matter what we think, whether we have a neighbor or not. Is a fact, and we just need to figure it out. It's better for us to know the reality the way it is. I just hope it will happen in my lifetime. So if it happens next month, that would be amazing. And I think there would be a slow process, but eventually the entire society will appreciate that, and it will change our priorities and bring us to a better place. Because I was asked,
can I challenge one assumption? Can I challenge one assumption that you made? And not to make this too philosophical, but your presumption is that us understanding reality is a better place to be than wherever we are today. And that appeals to me, because I think the truth, you have to live a life grounded in the truth. Musk, speaking of Musk, he often ponders the idea of whether or not we're living in a simulation, right? Which essentially is in a way not unlike the movie The Matrix. That's where an entire population of people live in a state of existence that is not reality, and we all know the term red pill. You red pill to live in reality. The question is blissful ignorance better than harsh, brutal reality?
Well, if you are the wealthiest person on earth, obviously you can have the luxury of imagining that you live in a simulation. But for any of us that has to struggle throughout life looks real. Okay? And I don't think this is a good idea to imagine that we live in a simulation, because it takes out responsibility from your actions throughout life. People who believe that we are in a simulation will just say, who cares if I get an overdraft in my bank account, if I get a low grade in an exam, if I do something really bad to my neighbor. It's all a game. And that is a really bad place to be in. We don't want society made of people that do not take responsibility for their actions. And maybe that's a society that Elon Musk enjoys being in, and thinking that, it's all part of a game. I don't think so. It's not a game, because what I do affects other people. I want to take responsibility for that. And I don't want to belong to a group of people who just does what they want. And so I don't think it's a good place for us to be in. One, of course, impact of, I was visited by a group of scholars, theologians, from an organization called Christianity Today. They asked me whether, if we find extraterrestrials, whether it will change their religious beliefs. And I told them, when I had 2 daughters, and when the second one was born, it didn't take away the love that I had to the first one. So imagining that God can attend only to one child is very limiting. And they were very happy with this answer. And I don't think it will impact religion. In fact, it would enhance religious beliefs, because you would realize that it's not only us. We have siblings. Now, we might get jealous that some siblings are more accomplished than we are, but I think altogether will bring us to a better place. The universe will not feel cold and lonely anymore. We would feel emotionally connected to whoever is out there, and maybe visit them as well.
Okay, last question, Professor. I appreciate all the time that you've given me. In our lifetime, what do you think will be the biggest mystery? We'll call it mystery of the cosmos. The conversations that we're talking about here. In our lifetime, what will be the biggest mystery solved?
I think we will find evidence for life beyond Earth in the coming decades. And, the only reason we might not find it is if we don't define it as an important priority, if people assume they know the answer in advance, if they keep ridiculing the notion that there is a smarter kid on the block, if they keep making that, something that should not be discussed within scientific research projects, then, of course, out of ignorance, we will assume that there is nothing out there. But if we allocate, right now, the mainstream of astronomy is allocating more than $10 billion to search for microbes. And I'm just saying, that doesn't make sense to give zero funding in the direction of intelligence out there, and allocate more than $10 billion in the next 2 decades to the search for microbes. I'm saying let's hedge our bets. Because it would be much easier to find the technological signature than to find microbes at great distances from us. So if we are wise enough to put billions of dollars in the search for technological signatures, I think we will find it. That's my guess. And, in life, it's important to be an optimist, because sometimes life is a self-fulfilling prophecy. And only if you are an optimist, your life will get better. If you say, we will not find anything, let's save the money and not do anything, then you might remain ignorant. So I'm hopeful, under one caveat, that we will invest billions of dollars in the search.
All right. He is the Frank B. Baird Jr. Professor of Science at Harvard University. Yes, Professor.
Just one thing. I had a bet last week with a skeptic, Michael Shermer, that in 5 years, 2030, by the end of 2030, we'll find evidence for alien technology, and let's see if it happens. And I have one advantage relative to Michael, and that is that I can promote this future. I can actually work hard to discover evidence, and if it's not out there, there is not much I can do. But
What's
at
the
least
bet?
if it's out there, yeah.
How much did you bet?
$500 each.
I want a little more stake in the game, Professor. I need something that's really laying it on the line between both of you.
Well, my salary is not very high, but if I had more, I would invest more. So, I'm willing to allocate a fraction of whatever research funds I get. Yeah.
5 years. That's a hell of a timeline. Okay, Professor Avi Loeb, I've really enjoyed this conversation. Thank you so much for the time.
Me too, and thanks for having me. It's a great pleasure.
Okay. There he goes, Harvard professor Avi Loeb. Over in the Willisha, here's what the folks have to say. Eric D. Reg says, we haven't developed a piece of technology worthy of them even talking. Suzanne Nico says, not sure what's scarier, that we are not alone out there or that we are alone and we are it. Phanton 001 says, nobody can handle the truth. And then Carmela Canale says, I don't think we have much to offer. They're probably so advanced they have nothing that we have. They need to survive. And others like Phanton saying we are relics to them. It's absolutely a fascinating conversation. And it is literally existential. Very different than the next conversation. As in our boy Two-A-Days Dan, Notre Dame got left out of the college football playoff. That's next on Will Cain Country. Two conspiracy theorists, two misanthropes, two victims, right here on Will Cain Country. Streaming live at the Will Cain Country YouTube channel, the Will Cain Facebook page, always available by following on Spotify or on Apple. Tinfoil Pat is a known misanthrope and conspiracy theorist here
Great word for
in the country. He is, misanthrope?
Yeah.
Great word.
It's exactly what it is.
Great word. It doesn't all stem from Florida State, but Florida State being left out of the playoffs a few years ago was really the apex of what really sent him into a comet-like tailspin. By the way, Dan, we have a poll up asking people whether or not they think 3i Atlas is a natural rock or alien spacecraft technology. What are the results of that poll?
It's been going back and forth. So right now, 48% say normal comet and 52% say it's an alien probe or craft. So it's pretty down the middle.
Okay. All right.
People are split.
Well, Dan has now joined Patrick in his grievance industry because Notre Dame has been left out of the college football playoff at 10-2, having lost their head-to-head matchup with Miami. Notre Dame is out. Here is your college football playoff. 1 Indiana, 2 Ohio State, 3 Georgia, and 4 Texas Tech, all with a bye. Then your matchups. 5-12. That is Oregon versus James Madison.
Bro.
6-11. That is Ole Miss versus Tulane. 7-10, Texas A&M, Miami, and 8-9, Oklahoma, Alabama. No Notre Dame. First team. I think first team. We assume first team because we didn't get the rankings below that, right?
No,
it could
we
have been
did.
Texas.
13, 14.
We don't
at
know.
The bottom.
Oh,
So Notre
BYU
Dame,
got
Texas?
14th?
Yeah.
No, Notre Dame 13, BYU 14. I'm assuming Texas got 15th?
Yeah.
Something like that?
It actually is comparable with the
I still
BCS
think
ratings.
Texas.
Somebody's.
I was texting with a mutual friend of ours that went to Notre Dame, and I was like, Will still thinks Texas should be in.
I do, over Notre Dame. I don't
Would you
feel
say it's a
super
travesty?
bad for you. Okay, you guys
Texas is in?
agree. I don't know about Patrick. Miami over Notre Dame
Sure.
makes all the sense in the world.
Sure.
You admit
No.
that, Dan.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, head-to-head.
Totally.
Yeah, Patrick, you're all over the place. It doesn't make
Head-to-head,
sense
no.
what you want.
Head-to-head is
you
a
want records.
I'll
piece
concede
of the
it.
puzzle.
I don't agree, but I'll concede it.
It's a piece of the puzzle that matters when you're debating two teams. Should they get in, Miami or Notre Dame? Well, Miami beat Notre Dame. Pretty easy in
you
my
can't do
book.
hypothetical
Pretty
either.
easy.
They beat them at home. You get 3 points at home. It
In
was a
overtime.
3-point win.
Was it overtime?
It's essentially a wash. Like we don't know that they're a better team.
No, it's not. Oh, we're doing better team now? We're back to my Texas
Alabama
metric?
beat Georgia
Better team?
early in the season.
You
Yeah,
do
they-
this. Like, if I make the argument that Texas is better, then I'd say 2 or 3 of these teams right here in the playoff. Well, I mean, more than that when you count James Madison, Tulane. I think they're better than Oklahoma. I think they're better than Miami. You don't like it because the games matter. Records matter. And now that I'm sitting here telling you Miami over Notre Dame, you're like, well, the games don't matter.
No.
It's just who's better. You're all over
records. Records matter. The overall body of work matters, and that's why I don't think Texas should be in. And that's why what I'm saying is when we compare Miami and Notre Dame, head-to-head is a piece of that puzzle. It's not the entire thing. So, like, just because one team beat the other doesn't mean that
third
they
of the
deserve to be in the
piece.
playoff.
Yeah.
Yes, it does. When the debate comes down, they have the exact same records. I'll give you something if the records were different, but the exact same records, then you have to take Miami over Notre Dame.
Bad October
You
losses
have
don't
to.
count by a lot, and Notre Dame winning 10 in a row to finish out the season against decent teams.
Head to head, they won. Debate over. Now, I'm willing to indulge a debate about Notre Dame versus Alabama, 3-loss Alabama, because Alabama was not impressive down the stretch. Alabama did get beat handily by Georgia. And so I think that Alabama has an argument for being out and Notre Dame being in. Again, I don't think it's the most egregious injustice. And by the way, we've already seen Oklahoma, Alabama. Oklahoma beat Alabama. So I don't need to see that game again. I mean, it's not necessary. I'd rather see Oklahoma, Notre Dame, quite honestly, right now. I'd rather see Texas in there. But this is, no, by the way, Notre Dame, total loser's limp pulling out of the bowl season. What are you doing? That's a bad look.
You screw us, we screw you.
It's exactly what should have happened. Who wins in this?
ESPN
we have
out
radically
so much money.
Exactly. We have radically changed what college football was over the last 10 or 15 years.
Ding,
And
ding.
so who wins if Notre Dame goes bowling?
Ding, ding.
Notre Dame's fans.
Nobody
I'm excited for
cares.
Texas, Michigan.
You want
cares
Jeremiah
about
Love to
bowls?
I'll pay
get
attention to Texas.
hurt his chances for the NFL?
I'll watch the Citrus Bowl. I'll watch Texas, Michigan in the Citrus Bowl.
And it's not
You
just
and Big
Notre Dame.
Cat. It's
Notre
like you
Dame-
and Big Cat and people who have.
It's
who
not
were
just
like
Notre
just-
Dame. Other teams pulled out too, by the way. Let's just put that out there.
There are quite a few teams that pulled out
Who
because
else
it doesn't.
pulled out?
Let's see.
Yeah, there was another one. I think Kansas State was one of them. But like, yeah, there are football diehards that, I mean, like Big Cat will literally sit there and watch women's volleyball just because it's on. So like, there are people who are going to watch the games, but for most people, the bowls don't matter anymore. It just doesn't matter.
Florida
That's
State.
fair.
Things changed.
That-
I mean, like you look at Jabril Peppers and all these other players who have sat out over the years. It's like you're not going to go see the best players anymore. People are saving
teams after
their, which for good reason, because like Jake Butt ended up tearing his ACL or destroying his knee and never played well again. So like,
And
you're not going to go see the best players. It's like bowl season's dead. You might as well not even do
yeah,
it.
and I'd like to point out what Danny Cannell said. I sent you that video from him yesterday, basically saying that this is a vendetta job against against Notre Dame because they won't join a conference, and so they're just
I don't
not.
agree with.
So we're not talking about
That's
football.
not
We're
what
just
it
talking about
is.
vendettas. Okay.
No, unfortunately, he fed into exactly what you want to hear because you want to believe that it's a conspiracy in some way. Notre Dame was left out because they lost to Miami. It's really, really simple. That's it. By the way, you, Notre Dame, are the beneficiary. You've got such a sweetheart
I know.
in this whole thing. There is no conspiracy against you. You get all of your money. You don't have to split it up with the conference. You get $4 million going straight to the university. All these other teams have to split it up with their conferences. And next year, starting next year, this whole system that's rigged against Notre Dame, oh, yeah, because next year, if you're in the top 12, you get guaranteed to
So
be
what?
in.
Yeah.
That's the future.
You should.
I mean, you're such
Why
a
doesn't
victim.
Texas do it? Texas
Like,
could do it.
basically,
Also, our schedule is insanely easy next year. It's crazy.
I mean, you're the worst victim out there. I mean, it's the
I know.
it's the rich entitled kid who finally didn't get what he wanted, and now the whole system is rigged against him.
It's just a guy who's a fan of a 3-loss team trying to get him in the playoff. Back door.
That's true.
Because they're better. And they beat 3 top 10
We'd beat
teams.
Texas right now.
It's pretty easy on my behalf. We would know that if you'd play in a bowl. Bunch of wusses.
Get outta
Come play
here.
us in the Citrus Bowl,
Get
Notre Dame.
outta
I'm
here.
happy.
Mr.
I'm
Number
happy to
one
take
ranked
you on.
preseason
Happy.
team. Please.
I'm just glad. I mean, this
Right here.
got
This
exposed
could have
just
been.
like COVID.
This could have been, but no.
I would have loved that.
I'm going home. Taking my ball and going home.
I don't know.
I think the whole system just got exposed, just like COVID. You think about George Floyd,
God.
and it's like when George Floyd had, all those funerals. Everybody else is like, you can't have funerals, and you start going, hey, what's up with this? Why can we have these funerals but not these
He
funerals?
just brought COVID and George
what's up with
Floyd
this?
into Notre Dame being left out of the playoffs.
It's the
I
same
didn't know
thing.
you could make
We
that
realize
comparison.
Really
The system's broken.
working
that
through
meme.
Atlas.
He's like that meme with all the red strings going everywhere. He's like, this is tied to this and this and this.
Here, I have a prediction. Avi Loeb says we will discover alien technology in the next 5 years. In the next 5 years, Patrick will be a full-on lefty.
Yep.
Watch it. He may not call it that. He won't call it that. He may
new
call
left.
it something else, but he is going to be a full-on lefty.
I've already played
And,
this game before.
You know, I don't know.
I can literally.
Okay.
I used to play this game at my old job.
circle.
Because of the horseshoe theory, I can be more liberal and more conservative than anyone else at the same time. I can make those arguments easily.
Because you believe in nothing. I know.
I believe
'Cause you
in.
believe in
Yeah, I
nothing.
don't believe in
It's just
anything.
all
They're nihilist, Donnie.
you're a nihilist.
Subjective.
Yeah. Must be exhausting. Just like they said in The Big Lebowski. He believes in nothing. Must be exhausting. That's all right.
Spinner carrots.
All right. That's going to do it for us today. We'll be back again tomorrow for Will Cain Country. Same time, same place, same platforms. We'll see you next time.